Stay tuned for absolutely explosive exposés of the conservative commentators that you listen to. Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultant channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And I'll be right back with this important information right after this word from my sponsor. Wait, I don't have any sponsors. I pay for this myself, don't I? Huh. I don't make any money at all from this channel, do I? Huh. Never mind. Let's just get started, shall we? Folks, if you're here today, perhaps for the first time watching my videos because the clickbait I put on the title to this video grabbed your attention, then you need to stay and watch the rest of what I have to say. You are precisely the kind of people I want to talk to here. If you want to know more about me, watch my other videos. But what I want to do today is talk about some of the more popular conservative, or at least anti-liberal commentators on the internet who have gained huge followings throughout this overthrow of the American government and the institutionalization of this new regime that I can only call the Banana Republic of America. And it's not that everything I'm going to say in here is bad or bad about the people I'm going to talk about. In fact, as far as I know, I'm going to recommend that you keep listening to everyone here. I don't think there's anyone here I'm going to tell you not to listen to. But I want to show you how to listen to them. And I want to help you recognize what some of these people are really doing. And how, whether it was intentional or inadvertent, they helped to contribute to the overthrow of the United States of America after nearly 2.5 centuries of existence. This country is over, folks. If you haven't figured that out yet, if these commentators are not telling you what's really going on here, you need to know. Because it's time to go into self-defense mode and protect yourself, because that's all you're going to have left. And unfortunately, these people who I think actually meant well contributed a lot to the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but I picked a number of conservative commentators who are very well known on the net, on the web, on YouTube and various places, who have gained very large followings from conservatives or Trump supporters, or just people who are dumbfounded and perhaps terrified by the way this world and this country in particular has been taken over by monumentally stupid and certifiably insane people. Now, my channel here has been, it has a lot of purposes on my channel, but part of the purpose is to show my viewers what this really is. Because if you understand what this apparent insanity and everything is, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. It's never going to be easy to deal with, but it's going to be easier. But these commentators aren't doing that. So I wrote out a whole lot of things here. I hope it's in some kind of order. Again, if it's your first time watching the Homeless Consultant channel, I live in this car. I've lived here for 6 years because I live in a liberal state. That's how the liberals treat the homeless, off camera. But as you're going to see, I'm not what you would expect to be a homeless person, am I? In fact, I work for a living. I work harder than the people I work with. And I pay for this channel. I pay for that camera. I pay for the gasoline that charges the battery for this camera. I pay for the hotel where I go and edit these videos. If I don't edit it here, but at least where I go to post them online. I pay for that myself. I don't get donations. And I do it because I care about other people. If I didn't care about other people, I would sit in this car and play a guitar and you would never know I exist. So I hope you watch. I'll let the cat out of the bag and give you a list of the people I'm going to talk about here. And again, please don't think I'm trying to put these people down. You're going to know in the end how I feel about them. That's not the case. But I need to talk about them. Because if they're leading you in a direction that is away from where you need to protect yourself and your family, that's got to stop. And I'm the one who's here to try to stop it to the best of my ability. I'm going to talk about Dr. Steve Turley, Dr. Dave Janda with his Operation Freedom. I'm going to talk about liberal Hivemind. I'm going to talk about Tyler Zed and his Zeducation. I'm going to talk about Dan Bongino, I guess you pronounce it right. I'm going to talk about Rudy Giuliani. I'm going to talk about, well, a couple others that I'll throw in a bit later, but those are the main ones I'm going to talk about right now. What I want to do is show you how there's something else going on here, and it should have been obvious to you all along. Now, among my many videos, I have, videos that range from just silly slapstick to very serious, a multi-part series, such as on my junk science, or the 50 greatest existential threats to the United States of America. Those are very important, kind of educational, where you can learn, and you can learn about how junk science works. That's why it takes a multi-part series, for example. That's how you're taught instead of just told something. But you have to watch it to do that, and my junk science videos have maybe 8 or 10 views after a year. These guys have hundreds of thousands of views a few minutes after they're posted. The question is, are you getting your money's worth out of them? Or should you maybe be looking a little more toward not just my videos, but a lot of people like me who nobody knows about and gets no views at all, but what we have to say will actually help you for real, tangibly help you navigate this cesspool that we're just spiraling into. I'm going to start out talking about Dr. Steve Turley. First things first, let's look at some of the headlines or descriptions on his YouTube videos. First of all, you've got all these capital letters. You've got words that affect you emotionally, like stopped in capital letters, backfires, Twitter stock plummets, futile impeachment, Trump approval rating soars. All right, and you can see all these things going on here. This is what's meant to pull you in to watch his videos. Now let's take, for example, Twitter stock plummets. Now it's true that Twitter stock on the stock exchange, the valuation of the company went down by about $5 billion very quickly after they censored President Donald Trump. That's true. Twitter's worth a lot more than that, and none of that money actually exists in the real world. That's the stock market, folks. If it wasn't for this illusion, if it wasn't for all these people who just get together and agree that this fake money actually exists, then Jack over at Twitter would be living in a car like I am. He doesn't have anything real. What have you ever, if you've been on Twitter, what have you seen that goes on Twitter that would make somebody billions and billions and billions of dollars? What's happening there? Those little promo ads every once in a while? You see an ad here and there? Do you know how they make their money? These companies primarily make their money by gathering your personal information and selling it and sharing it to others. It's not through this advertising. Did that stop when they banned Trump? Did that somehow cause them to stop making money by selling your personal information? They already had your personal information. Nope. Nope. But Dr. Steve Turley says Twitter stock plummets. Folks, it didn't plummet. It dropped temporarily. Might continue to drop, might go up, we don't know. But that was anything but a plummet. If it was a plummet, Jack would be looking for a car to live in, and that ain't happening. Okay? That's hyperbole in this description for Dr. Steve Turley's videos. I mean, as you look through all of these, you're going to see these capital letters, and he has a habit of using words like imploding, exploding, just everything he talks about is biblically epic, like the Big Bang, or just everything he's talking about is just big and important, and from these words that he uses in there, But when you get into the actual video itself, you find something different. What you find instead is an opening that gets repeated, all like the Gong Show, you know, just Chuck Barris kind of style. Very happy, optimistic. Oh yeah, we're winning the battle. We're gonna take them down. And then right after this ad, and then he goes into an ad for some ridiculous product, which is usually some kind of survivalist thing, like a flashlight or magic potion to cure your ills. I don't know. And then he goes into the first part where it's a little lackluster considering what the headline was. I mean, it's generally on that topic, but turns out it wasn't really imploding. It was just, you know, kind of, there was a bit of awareness about it, you know, because he has videos where he says, you know, Joe Biden's campaign is over. Joe Biden's campaign is imploding. Folks, as of tomorrow, Joe Biden is scheduled to be inaugurated as the President of the United States. There was no implosion. There was no ending to his campaign. Now, granted, yes, he got there by means that are not above board and that should put him into a prison, but that's beside the point. His campaign did not implode. But that's the way Steve Turley portrays it in these video titles. When you have titles that have this kind of clickbait, all these capital letters and exclamation points all over, and these eye-catching words, like it took me longer to write the title to this video than it has for any other video I've done, because I don't manipulate people that way. What I put in there, earth-shattering, exclamation point. Conservative commentators exposed in capital letters, exclamation, exclamation. And then at the end of the list of names, unbelievable! And here you are. But you weren't here for my last videos, were you? Where I was actually telling you something that was very, 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 very important. And if you'd been watching it all along, and if enough people had been watching it, we might have been able to prevent what's about to happen tomorrow, which again is someone as corrupt as Joe Biden being inaugurated president, well, president of the Banana Republic of America. I will never call what he's leading the United States of America, founded by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and others. Steve Turley, he will often do live streams on YouTube. In a live stream, instead of maybe a 20-minute or 12, 15-minute video, he'll do a 20 or 30, maybe 40-minute video, which basically is indistinguishable from the ones that he posts in terms of content. Same thing. The only difference is when he does a live stream, he can get all these super chats. So as you watch the chat board, you see people donating $5, $10, $20, $50, $100 over and over and over again. And you just cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And meanwhile, he's just talking the exact same kind of thing he does on his regular videos. In one live stream, sitting down for just a half hour, that guy can make more money perhaps than I will make in 2 to 4 weeks of work at my job. Is he earning it, folks? Is he earning it? Or are the videos that people like me are creating that nobody's watching? Are those the ones that maybe have the most value? And I don't even ask you to pay for it. I'd love donations, but what's the point of asking? I'm here to offer you something that will help you and save you. If you want to compensate me for that, be my guest. I'd love it. I'm not going to sit here and beg for it. Those super chats bring in all kinds of money, and they're not fundamentally different than his other videos. So why is he doing them? Why is he doing them? You'll see in a moment there is another reason for it. He frequently brings up this doctrine, and I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm in a car. I can't access the internet except in rare occasions, and often I have to pay $80 a day at a hotel to do it. But he brings up this general so-and-so's doctrine, right, which is accept the reality of your situation, and I can't even remember the second part of it, okay? It's a nice little shtick, it's plausible, and it makes absolute sense, the first part, accept the reality of your situation. I believe this general was POW in Vietnam, and he was saying those who survive in a POW camp, they have to accept the reality of their situation. They can't live in denial. And that's all well and good, but the problem is, much of what goes on Turley's channel is people being in denial. You got to practice what you preach. If you're going to talk about accepting the reality of the situation, you need to accept the reality of the situation. There's nothing to be optimistic about right now, folks. That's not because I'm pessimistic. I wouldn't be making these videos if I was pessimistic. The reality of the situation is the United States of America is over. And our generation not only lost it, we didn't lose it in a battle. We handed it on a silver platter to what may be, well, I'm not going to say they're among the very most evil regimes that have ever existed. I'm not going to say they're more evil than the Nazis or the Soviet Union. They're basically equivalent. But that's pretty bad. And our generation just handed it to them on a silver platter and did nothing to stop it. Instead, they just sat around drinking beer. And this is not beer, by the way. I don't drink beer. Can't stand booze. And they watched television, and they stared at their phone. And that's why we've lost the United States of America. Steve Turley is optimistic about this, though. He's all happy. That's his shtick, is I'm going to be happy. I'm going to spread the optimism to the people out there. And you know what? When people are desperate, they want something like that. And he's happy to give it to them. The problem is, where's he leading them to? And here's the other thing. Whenever, on those rare occasions when he brings up the fact that people criticize him doing that, he gets almost violently angry on his channel. I mean, he's like, you can just go away. And he starts to sound like Alex Jones. Literally, he gets this thing in his eye, these red eyes, and just, you can just leave this channel right now. I want nothing to do with you. It's like, okay. And somewhere in his channel, there's something about this is supposed to be a Christian thing. I'm not sure because he only mentions Jesus maybe once a month, but something about his whole thing is supposed to be oriented to Christians. I'm not quite understanding that part. But again, people are handing him money hand over fist. So he's apparently giving them something that they want. Perhaps it's a false optimism. But don't tell him that, because he'll yell and scream at you, call you names, and say that you're the problem. Right. No. The problem is that your children are going to live under the kind of totalitarian dictatorship that our ancestors fought and died to stop for the last 100 years. And our generation gave it up. That's the problem. And you better accept it if you want to survive through it. Steve Turley talks about two different visions of reality. So he sees the left and the right as two different visions of reality. Ideological politics of the 20th century and the new identity politics. Okay. That's how you explain Nancy Pelosi. That's how you explain Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, the news media. That's how you explain Trump derangement syndrome. A shift from ideological politics to identity politics. Folks, again, you got to look with reality. These people are certifiably insane. They have lost the good of intellect. What was that? The seventh ring of hell for Dante? He has lost the good of intellect. These people are dumb as a stump. They're insane. They're violent. And they're dangerous. That's not a shift from ideological politics to identity politics. We have insane, powerful people who want to oppress and destroy us. And they can't even articulate a reason why. They can't even articulate what it is they're trying to build. These people are nut jobs. And if you don't look at it for what it is and try to figure out what's causing this, you're not going to know what's going on. And a bunch of hopeful optimism and smiles and selling flashlights ain't going to fix it for you, folks. I'm sorry. Now, I'll let the one cat out of the bag. If you want to know what I think it is, because it is absolutely inexplicable. Look, one of my fields of research for 30 years now, propaganda, manipulation, how people manipulate others, exploit them, take advantage of them, especially using language to manipulate them, but also tactics and techniques, conspiracies, yes, they do exist, things of that nature. But that's not entirely what's going on here. This is not a mass hysteria. This is, while there's a cult aspect to it, and it's very, very in-depth cult aspect to the liberals and the leftists, these loony birds. Yeah, there's a cult going on there, but even cults are not necessarily insane. They don't have to be. They don't have to be driven over the edge. These people are crazy. They're so completely out of touch with reality, and yet they can function even as the third in line to the presidency, Speaker of the House of Representatives. How is that possible? How can you be that insane? Worse than Charles Manson. Manson sounded more sane and sober than Nancy Pelosi when you got him calmed down, when he wasn't playing people. When you actually listen to what he said, whether you agree with it or not, he was more articulate, and what he said, you could at least follow some chain of reasoning better than what Nancy Pelosi says. Doesn't that scare anybody? And does it make any sense that someone like that can be third in line to the presidency? Something else is going on, folks. This is more than mass hysteria and cult mentality. Personally, I think this is the clearest sign of spiritual warfare we have ever seen. Personally, I think we are due for exactly that. Because I do believe in the Bible, and the Bible says that these times, roughly 2,000 years after Jesus, are going to be, quote, the end times. And one of the signs of that is Satan knows his time is short. He's about to go to the lake of fire forever, along with many of these people, by the way. He knows his time is short, so he comes down here with great wrath. Like an animal cornered, just goes berserk because you've got him cornered. That's what the devil's doing, and that's why these people are behaving like demons. This is more than cult mentality and manipulation and propaganda. It's more than just psychological insanity. If you haven't figured out how these people can be this insane, I'm not a man or a woman. I identify with a red brick. I'm a red brick. But yesterday, I was a pop can. Okay, and people accept that, and they pass a law saying that you can't tell them they're not a pop can or a red brick. You're trying to figure out, okay, on what planet did I wake up on here? This doesn't make any rational sense. And these guys are pitching you stuff like, oh, well, that's just ideological politics versus identity politics. Sorry, folks, that is not what it is. This is demons from hell. This is something beyond us. What exactly? I can't tell you. But what we're faced with here with the Pelosi's and all these loony birds, AOC, this is something we have never seen before. Even the Nazis, as crazy as they were purely locked into a cult mentality. For the most part, there were some satanic aspects in there, but your rank and file and the leadership of the Nazi Party, for the most part, were exhibiting classic cult behavior, as are the followers of these loony birds today, Antifa and things like that. But the leaders of this, the people who are behind this, they're exhibiting something that is so detached from reality, and yet they're still functional. How can that possibly be? People, I'm homeless. I live in a car, and if I go to a shelter or something, I see the homeless people who are schizophrenic. They're talking to themselves, and just out of nowhere, they just do this kind of thing. These people live in a different planet. They are as sane as a Nancy Pelosi, but they are in no way competent to even fake serving as the Speaker of the House. She runs the House of Representatives. There's something else behind this than insanity. Steve Turley is not talking about what it is, and yet, every once in a while, he brings up the name Jesus. I just want you to think about that. Now, in his favor, I want to say a few things. First of all, again, I am not calling for you to stop watching Steve Turley. I think you should keep watching him, but know what it is you're watching. And have him put his money where his mouth is. Instead of handing money over to him to fill you with that false hope, and then to sit there and violently, aggressively condemn anyone who doesn't like him leading people astray like that. Instead of financing that guy, consider people who really need help. If not me, what about the other 4 million homeless people out there? But Steve Turley brings up a lot of very interesting, thought-provoking points. I'll give him credit for that. He does manage, throughout the election, he managed to gather a lot of news that you couldn't get from the controlled fake news media. It's not even a news media. It's a seditious special interest posing as a news media. So he served a really good purpose there, and it's a shame that he tainted it with all this optimism. If you watch my videos, you would see more of a reality of the situation. I never even got through my 50 existential threats to America. I listed them out in October of 2019, but I only got through number 6 as far as going through the detailed explanation of each one. If you had heard all those explanations, you would have known why there was a big problem with this election coming up here. Electronic voting machines, even if you didn't have the COVID with the mail-in voting, the electronic voting machines, that is the most fundamentally absurd thing you could ever do to a free and fair election. Everyone should have seen this coming, folks, and sadly to say, even Donald Trump should have seen this coming. I really respect what he's done for us. He did a wonderful, probably, if not the greatest American president, one of the top 3, I would say, without a doubt. But even he didn't grasp what was coming. All he needed to know was computer science, and he would have gotten it. Electronic voting machines? The answer was there right in front of your faces all along, folks. You can put out videos as often as Steve Turley and sit there and rake in the super chats till the end of time. You can be, oh, I'm so happy and optimistic and a new conservative age is coming. Then you can sit there and pitch that to people till the end of time. But it keeps coming back to electronic voting machines. All you have to know is what an electronic voting machine is, and you immediately understand what the problem is. Another thing I'll say about Steve Turley is he's a fantastic guitar player. If you haven't watched it, search for Steve Turley Guitar 700 Club. I don't know how long ago this was, maybe 15, 20 years ago. That man can play guitar, and I hope he gets back into it. Might calm him down a bit. Fantastic guitar player. So keep watching Steve Turley. He does wonderful things. He brings out some really good points, but he also does a lot of things that lead you in the wrong direction. We'll see when we look at cult building tactics below. The next one I want to talk about is liberal Hivemind. Now, liberal Hivemind, I don't know what happened there. I guess he kind of came out of nowhere a relatively short time ago on YouTube. No one supposedly knows who he is, just has the hood in his videos. Look at the titles to his videos. Very similar to Steve Turley. Capital letters all over the place. Dropping bombs. The very end. Shocked. We're beating them. CNN shocked we're beating them. Okay, let's look at that one real quick. CNN is shocked that we're beating them. Are we really beating them? Seems to me that they are the ones who control access to all information that is given to 7.5 billion human beings. While the same person who says we're beating them keeps complaining that he's being shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, which I'm sure is absolutely true. We're beating them? No, we're not, folks. We're losing horrifically. We're losing to a regime that is so mind-bogglingly evil that people don't want to admit what we are really up against here. We're not beating them, folks. We're losing. And when I say losing, I mean there was a Rush song that came out. I think it was on the Roll the Bones album, if I remember right. I'm so sorry I can't remember the name of it, but it was after the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union fell apart. And in there it was singing, all those wasted years, all those crazy wasted years, who will pay? Generations were born, raised, lived, had children, went to old age, and died under that jackbooted totalitarian regime. They never once knew what freedom was their whole life. They could only dream about it. They were kept behind an iron curtain with controlled news media, Pravda and TASS. They couldn't watch our news media and see what freedom was, see what the rest of the world was. This was their existence. Their existence was rendered absolutely pointless by a totalitarian regime from birth to death over several generations. And it finally collapses with the fall of the Berlin Wall. And Rush was asking the question, who will pay for all that? Who's going to pay for that human suffering? Stalin? Stalin was already dead. Is Joe Biden going to pay for it? Joe Biden has had one foot in the grave for the last 10 years. And he's dancing there with Nancy Pelosi. Look at Nancy Pelosi. I can't imagine what kind of chemical concoction or demonic activity could keep that skeletonized alive this long. They don't have much time left, folks. They are a matter of years away from beginning an eternity in a very hot place that they don't even believe in. But you know what? While I wish, and you should pray for them, that won't be the case. Pray for them. Pray for them. It's never too late for someone to be saved. One of the beauties of Christianity, what Jesus did. Pray for them. Because they are, literally, you might not, I don't like Nancy Pelosi as she is right now in this incarnation, this unsaved one. I don't like her one bit. But I don't want her going to hell. I don't want that devil having a single human being in hell. For all the pain and suffering he has caused this species all along, going back to the Garden of Eden, I don't want him carrying a single soul to hell. I want him to be lonely for eternity. And that means pulling Nancy Pelosi back as well from the brink. Pray for our leaders. But it's up to them what they choose. And if she doesn't choose differently, just by her age alone, she is a few years from beginning eternity in hell, most likely. I am not going to be someone who sits here and says, this person's going to hell, that person's going to hell. I don't want to do that. But I fear that's where she's headed. And that's horrible for her. But as far as people living on this earth, they lived in an earthly hell throughout the Soviet Union. And all we get out at the end of it is a Rush song with them saying, all those terrible wasted years, who will pay? The people who did it were long since dead. The ones who were there at the time, they ended up just turning the Politburo into the Russian mafia. And they took over by another means. And they have their hands in what's going on in this country right now. But nobody paid attention. So when liberal Hivemind sits there and says, you know, with these capitalized words to get attention and get, you know, clickbait kind of thing, you know, Joe Biden imploding already as far leftists begin to attack him at every turn. Really? What? He's a total failure, it says. He's about to become the 46th president of the United States tomorrow. I mean, on paper. Again, I do not see him as the president of the United States. I see him as a member of the cabal that destroyed the United States of America, which no longer exists. He is the first president of whatever you want to call it, a new nation. I call it the Banana Republic of America. But it's a totalitarian regime. Yeah, I think that's a failure in a moral sense, but in a worldly sense, is that a failure? He's taking over as the president, as the leader of the free world. He's a failure? Really? No, he's a very successful criminal is what he is. But that's not what the headline says in capital letters. It says he's a total failure. You see the problem here, folks. I don't like what these people are doing. I hate it, and I'm fighting against it with all I've got. But you can't sit there and lie. You can't use lies to try to draw people in to listen to you. We'll see why in a moment. Bombshell. Joe Biden caught up once again in huge Hunter Biden revelation. Really? If you hadn't watched that liberal Hivemind video, would you have ever even heard about it? After all, it's a bombshell. It says so right here. Huge Hunter Biden revelation. How much huger can you get than the video that you can just go watch right now of Joe Biden sitting there before the World Economic Forum telling them flat out how he extorted the Ukrainian president? Said, I've got $1 billion, I'm going to withhold from you unless you fire the prosecutor who's investigating my son, and therefore investigating me. If you fire him, you get the $1 billion that Americans worked to earn. They went to a job to earn that money, and I'm going to give it to your country. Not them, but your country. But I'm only going to give it to you if you fire the prosecutor who's investigating me. Then you can watch a video of that. Where's this bombshell? See, folks, this is very manipulative, and it's not the right thing to do to people who you want to watch your videos. I do my very best to respect the people who watch my videos. It's difficult sometimes, because the fact is, it's people who watch my videos and everyone else out there who failed to stop this coup, who failed to stop us from entering a new dark age. A dark age I've been warning about for years, but not in some political sense. I've been telling you specifically why it cannot be any other way if we don't stop it. Through junk science, which explains the coronavirus health scare. Have you watched my junk science videos? I doubt it, because they've only got like 10 views for all the work I put into that. Not to mention the 30 years of research and effort I did learning what I put in those videos. Liberal Hivemind gets 500,000 views for a video, and he's complaining that he no longer gets 500,000. And at the end of his videos, he says, okay, I'm going to get to work on the next video now. It's like, really? When I get done with these videos, you know what I do? I go to my job, and I spend 9 hours there in essentially a 21st century sweatshop. I pay for this stuff. You don't. Not with 10 views on my videos. I pay for this. Now, having said that, I like Liberal Hivemind a lot. I like him, whoever he is. He's very articulate. I don't know how old he is, but judging from what he sounds like, he seems to be a bit wise beyond his years, which is wonderful. I like him a lot. I like his channel a lot. And I'm not trying to put him down. I'm trying to point out that you've got to take the good things from channels like this, and you have to let the bad go. But if you're not thinking about the fact that he's using this kind of clickbait, if you don't think about it, you're going to integrate what he's saying incorrectly in your mind. Because you're going to have all these big words, dropping bombs, final push, imploding, Fox News is over. Really? Last time I looked, Fox News is still chugging along. Those people still have their jobs, last time I saw. Is it really over? See, if this is what you're reading and then you hear what he says, which really isn't about Fox News being over, do you see the problem there? You're taking in all this information, and how is your brain processing it? Is your brain processing it as every time you watch these videos, well, here was the headline the guy gave me. It was hyperbole. He did not deliver on what he said he was going to deliver on. Now, what he told me was very interesting. I needed to know that. I'm glad I know it. But what he told me does not match the seriousness of what he put in his headline. Does that go through your mind when you watch it, Liberal Hivemind, or do you just suck it all in? Because if you don't learn how to critically think so that you can make that distinction in your mind as you're watching these videos, then you're going to do the same thing when you watch CNN or Fox News or any corrupt news media or a cult leader who might want to suck you in to their group. I highly encourage you to watch Liberal Hivemind. Support him. He's doing great work. But unfortunately, he's using a lot of cult building tactics as well. Not as bad as some. Not as bad as Steve Turley. As you'll see, I actually put him toward the bottom of the list in that sense. And again, I am not trying to put him down. I'm very grateful for what he's done. But I hope he'll start matching his headlines to the reality of what it is that he's saying. Because it's inexcusable to draw people in. I'm sitting here making sincere videos, and my titles, I do everything I can to accurately describe what my video's about. Without hyperbole, without trying to manipulate your mind. I could throw a bunch of exclamation points in there. I could make thumbnails that have an arrow, some super small thing. You can barely see what it is, but it has an arrow and pointing to a circle, and it says, bombshell! And you have no idea what that means, so you click on it to find out. I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't want to manipulate you. I want to inform you. I want to educate you. I want to help you. And I think he does too. But this manipulation of the very people he's trying to help needs to stop, not just him. Next, let's go on to Dr. I'll take a drink before I say that. Dr. Dave Janda. Operation Freedom is his channel. Oh, I'm sorry, his platform. His platform. He uses the word platform very often. Dr. Dave Janda. Let's see, there's a lot of my 50 existential threats that relate to the medical industry. Health fascism, junk science, there's a whole bunch of them. He comes out of that. Now, I'm not putting him down for being a doctor. The problem is, academia is a major cult. Major cult. The medical profession is an unfathomably big and complicated cult. And he comes out of that. And he's not going to know that. So, I like what he does a lot. He seems to be leaning a bit more toward the fringe than I feel comfortable with sometimes. And I'm not real fond of him using words like briefing. He calls his videos a briefing. It's not a briefing. I'm sorry, but I'm not a public official that you're briefing. I'm a homeless guy in a car watching a video. And when you try to make yourself sound super important by calling it a briefing, that's a manipulative tactic, and it should stop. Again, what Dave Janda talks about is often very good stuff. I recommend that you watch him. I recommend that you support him to the extent that it is reasonable for you to do so. But do not get pulled into someone just because they have doctor in front of their name. Steve Turley is a doctor as well. Look up what he's a doctor of. I'm not even going to talk about it. You do some research. Look up what he's a doctor of. Is it as impressive as it sounded before? You tell me. Dave Janda is apparently a legit doctor. And he does have a history of legitimate accomplishments and experiences woven into, the fabric of what has happened over many decades. He has a lot of legitimate things to say and a very legitimate perspective. But this stuff about trying to make his platform sound so self-aggrandizing, it's Dave Janda has a channel where he offers videos and podcasts, and he's offering his thoughts on things. He's not doing a lot of teaching, though, and as you're going to see, that's a lot of the problem with these. They're doing a lot of informing, and informing is a dangerous thing because you have to confirm what it is that they're informing you of. Is it true or not? But they're not doing a lot of teaching. My channel tries to teach. I try to weave it together to make it interesting. But I try to teach. What is it with a fish? You can give a man a fish and he eats once, or you can teach him how to fish and he can eat for the rest of his life. And that's not what too many of these people are doing. Anyway, Dave Janda, I don't quite know what to make of the guy completely. I've watched him a lot over a long time, so it's been spread out. Some of the things going on there make me pretty nervous. Some of the people he seems to associate with make me a little nervous as far as fringe activities. But I think he's worth watching with a grain of salt in hand. But there are a lot of cult building tactics going on there. Next would be Tyler Zed and Zeducation. This guy, he's kind of a younger guy. He's here in Minneapolis, not far from where I am. He's taken the humor route, and frankly, that's an incredibly effective way, and he does it well. Sorry about dollar store glasses, folks. I live in a car. I can't afford the good stuff. That's why I'm touching them all the time. They fall off my head. Zeducation and Tyler Zed, it's very entertaining, and I think the memes are actually a very good way to make points quickly. Instead of me sitting here explaining all this, sometimes a meme is worth 1,000 words. A picture's worth 1,000 words. And that's the beauty of memes. And his channel, like Liberal Hivemind, is meant to show you the hypocrisy that's behind these liberals and leftists. But again, they're not addressing the real problem. They keep pointing out, and sometimes they're just dumbfounded at how these leftists can be this stupid, this insane. I mean, making Charles Manson look sane and stable in comparison to them. But they're not addressing the real problem. And if you don't know the real problem, how are you going to get a solution? Now, that wouldn't be so bad if Zeducation was just an entertainment thing. But when we get to the cult building tactics, I think you're going to see why I'm concerned about this guy a little bit. I think you should watch it. Absolutely. Get out of those memes. He is very entertaining. He's well-spoken. He's a sharp guy. I like him. But he is using cult-building tactics to build something for himself. And in the end, the question is this. Are you all going to make this guy enough money so that when the fit hits the shan, he's going to be able to run and hide and live comfortably or buy his way out of something while you and your family are taken out in the front yard and shot in the back of the head? Because it's great that he's showing you these memes and he's pointing out the problems we have here, but where is he telling you the reason that these liberals have gone far off the deep end into a different universe, not even the same reality that human beings inhabit? Literally, again, to me, it is spiritual warfare. They have entered the realm of the demonic. That literally is something outside of human reality. Where's Tyler Zed even alluding to that? It's great that he's pointing out these. You see what I mean? You see, this is the problem with some of these commentators. They're looking for a niche and they're saving themselves. They're setting up a lemonade stand on the Titanic. You know, and while it's sinking and everyone's buying the lemonade from them, they take that money and they go buy a lifeboat and they're gone while the people with their fresh lemonade go down. This is what scares me about these commentators. Now, I don't even think they're necessarily consciously doing that. And I'm not against anyone being successful, obviously. I want all these people to be successful to the extent that they are, in fact, serving you. But it begs the question, why after 6 years of me doing work that is far more focused than any of these people have done so far that I've mentioned, far more focused, why am I still living in a car with no donations? Maybe it's because I don't build cults, but these people use cult building tactics, as we'll see in a moment. Moving right along, Rudy Giuliani, he has a podcast called Common Sense, or Vidcast. I just found out about this one since the elections, skullduggery, criminality. Who knew Giuliani was that sharp? I hadn't paid much attention to him, to be honest, since 9/11. Giuliani is offering some really good stuff. I highly urge you to watch Rudy Giuliani's videos and his Common Sense podcast. You might have to go to Rumble to find it. I don't think it's on YouTube that I could find. Well worth watching. Good job, Rudy. I would give you a thumbs up here, but if you were watching my videos, you would know why I've permanently lost the use of this thumb as far as being able to do a thumbs up or anything like that, along with my singing voice and many other things. That's what comes with living in a car for 6 years. If I had gotten the support that these people are getting over the last 6 years, I wouldn't be living in a car, and I might still have my singing voice, and I could give Rudy a thumbs up. But I can't, because people were too busy following the people who led them on a leash using these cult building tactics. I'm not saying you didn't get something good out of what they were talking about and telling you, but you gotta look at the big picture, folks. And that's what I'm here to try to get you to do in this video. Next would be Dan Bongino. I don't know what his name is. I've seen this guy several times. I actually had a video where I commented on it because he once went on Fox News and talked about homelessness, and he didn't know what he was talking about. You want to know about homelessness, why don't you ask a homeless person? I was pretty upset that he had the audacity to go on there and say a word about homelessness. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I can't really watch the guy. He's so forceful and aggressive. He's kind of like Alex Jones in that way. And that's his shtick. And the problem is that's a cult building tactic. What he seems to say seems to be pretty good. I think he is sincere, from what I can tell, about caring and loving the country, about wanting to save it. I think he's sincere about his viewers wanting to empower his videos with information and ideas of how to make things better. I really do. But whether it's just his personality or this is the shtick he's decided to build for his cult building, the forceful, authoritative aggressiveness on things that are ultimately based on opinion just doesn't fly very well with me. I'll take somebody's opinion, but don't sit there and just tell me you're the grand authority. If you're an expert on a topic, if you're an expert on building ships in bottles, you can speak authoritatively to me on that topic, because I don't know how to build a ship in a bottle. But if you know how to get in there with the tweezers and the sticks and build a ship in there, I'm going to listen to what you say, and you can be forceful and authoritative all you want. But if you're going to tell me the same thing based on ideas and suggestions and philosophies and possibilities and what might be, don't be so authoritative, folks. Once in a while, okay, it makes sense. But if that's just your whole thing, is I'm just going to sit there and, well, we need to... I mean, he's just doing the Alex Jones thing. And Alex Jones is exhausting. We don't need another one like that. Now, having said that, I urge you to watch all of these people, including Bongino. I'm going to assume it's Bongino. I don't know. Watch them all, because they all do contribute, and I think they all are sincere. I don't think any of them is a Manchurian candidate. I don't think any of them is a plant. I think some of them are in peril of being corrupted, and they could end up hurting the people they claim to be helping without really meaning to, but because they're really focused a lot on themselves. And with that in mind, let's move on to the next section of this video, which is about cult building tactics. Now, sorry for the break there, folks. It got really, really cold, and I just decided to stop and try to warm up a bit first. So let's move right along to the cult building tactics that are used by some of these people, intentionally or unintentionally. Now, I threw another name on here that I'm not talking about. This is not someone I would listen to regularly. Haven't listened to him in a long time. Didn't really care when I did. Alex Jones. Alex Jones needs his own video to talk about what this guy may or may not be about. But I would point out that when he started out in the 90s, there was another fellow who would be, well, he probably is rolling over in his grave right now, Bill Cooper. One of the true, in my opinion, American heroes of the modern age. Not necessarily because he was right about everything, but because he made you think, and he exercised his constitutional rights in a manner that a free citizen should, the way that the founders intended. It's not that I agree with everything he said or anything. Anyway, someday I'll do a tribute to Bill Cooper, as he should have, but he is probably rolling over in his grave right now, because he's dead, of course. He was shot in his front yard by the U.S. government, as he tried to warn us about what is going to happen tomorrow. Rest in peace, Bill Cooper, who died 20 years ago, shortly after he warned us about 9/11, before it happened. But Alex Jones clearly engages in cult-building tactics. Duh. If I were to try to rank these guys, it's not easy. I did it kind of quickly, but I would say Steve Turley uses these cult-building tactics the most, by far. Dan Bongino uses them. Operation Freedom and Dr. Dave Janda uses them. Zeducation, Tyler Zed, uses cult-building tactics. And I put in here liberal Hivemind, but with a caveat to an extent. Because if I go down to the people who do not use cult building tactics, liberal hive mind falls under that category as well. And I say to an extent. And again, I don't think it's deliberate on his part at all. He seems to be very, very sincere. Don't forget, in some cases, these cult building tactics, they cross a line between marketing and building a cult. So a lot of these things are used for marketing, but it's how they're used that crosses a line into building a cult. And then, of course, as far as not building a cult at all, Rudy Giuliani. The man's just presenting information. So let's take a quick look. I'm going to fly through these. I could spend a lot of time going through all these. And again, I just wrote them out real quick. So tactics that these commentators use to build a cult following, which remember, the cult following serves them. It does not serve the members of the cult. Getting a following means that you have power. All of a sudden you have establishment. You have credibility, at least within some circles. Or you may have no credibility to the enemy, but the enemy, especially when you're dealing with a loony one like these leftists, you have no credibility because you have a cult, but they want to destroy you because you have a cult. So you clearly do have credibility, right? The point is, you have a lot of influence over people, and when you enter the realm of culthood, you have undue influence. You have more than you should, because members of cults are not going at your presentations defensively like they would if they're watching CNN or something. So let's just fly through these. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what's going on, not to teach you the details. So first of all would be pretending to be personal, where you say things like, we'd love to have you join us, or I would love to have you join us, and the other 12,000 people who are going to be on the live chat giving monetary gifts to me. You see, that's not very sincere. For him to say, I would love to have you join us. When one of these people says something like that, it's, okay, I get it. If you say it in passing, perhaps, but when it becomes part of your shtick, and it's repeated in this kind of gong show, just, you know, like Turley at the beginning, he has this whole spiel that he reads by memory. The only thing I have is, welcome to the Homeless Consultant channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. That's it. And that's just to identify what it is you're watching. That's just a courtesy, so you know what in the world you're looking at. But when you sit there and you talk to viewers on a personal basis, when you don't know who's listening, I don't know who you are right now. I might know you personally in the real world, or I might not. You might be a stranger. You might be from the other side of the world. What business do I have talking to you as if we're best friends? I wish we were, but I don't know you. And I'm just trying to manipulate you if I try to put you, if I rank you as an individual higher importance and direct relevance in my life than you deserve, because I don't know who you are. It's nothing against you. But if I try to portray you, if I try to build you up and puff up your ego, oh my gosh, this guy with 1 million subscribers, he wants me to be at his live stream. Come on, folks, that's just manipulating people. You're talking to a mass audience. Show them the respect and dignity to acknowledge that they are just a member of a mass audience, and try to help them. Next would be an obsession with these like, subscribe, share, donate, thumbs up, smiley face. I mean, an obsession with that, again, that serves your purposes. Now, you could argue, well, I'm doing a great thing for the American people, so the more people who listen to me, the better. Okay, that's kind of true. If you are a contributor, yeah, that is right. And if you just have a thing at the end, I like the way liberal Hivemind does it. At the very beginning, he puts it in the same spot every time, which, you know, it's okay. It's okay if it's brief. His is very brief and to the point. He just reminds you, like, subscribe, the YouTube algorithm's killing him, and he's right. And then it's over, and then it's on with the rest of the stuff. But some of these people just spend all their time, you know, make sure you subscribe and like and share and all this. I put a little thing at the end of my last video to share it with people, but that's one video I really thought should be shared with other people. I mean, I think all my videos should be, but that one was particularly important. It was regarding Twitter exit, Twexit, because it was on a time frame, you know? I mean, it's only a few days before when I'm leaving Twitter. So it was important for you to share it with other people. But these people who are obsessed with it and half their video talks about, you know, serving them. It's like when I contacted this useless state or U.S. representative from Minnesota. Geez, can't remember her name now. Don't even want to remember her name. But she, you know, she didn't do anything at all to help me, just ignored me completely. And a year later, I'm still getting her junk emails where she keeps asking me to help her. Just a useless as a public servant. Absolutely worthless. Just, it's all about her. That's the whole, that's dreadful. Next would be selling junk all the time. Okay, I understand you need to have a way to finance all this, but again, I'm living proof that you can do it without having to sell junk. Flashlights and steroid pills and Koiloto silver or whatever nonsense you've got going on. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I make these videos. I pay for it myself going to work at a job. Now maybe if I didn't spend the money I spend on these videos with the research and things I do, maybe once or twice a month I could get a hotel for one more night from the money I save. Maybe. Right now I get roughly 2 nights every week in a hotel. The rest I'm in this car. And that's all I can afford. But if I have a car repaired, that's over. That month I'm in the car the whole time. It'd be nice if I had some extra money, to be honest. But I still make these videos, about 200 videos now. I think very good videos for the most part. They're very informative. They're very substantial. But I don't sit there and just try to sell stuff. I don't feel the need to go out and get a sponsor. I make it, I present it to you, and I would love for you to listen to it. Along those lines is having sponsors. You remember how I opened this one up? I said, I'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. And that's like, oh, I don't have one, do I? A sponsor? What in the world's a... I thought I came to you to get information, really important, relevant, timely information at a crisis point in this, well, what was our nation. We failed to save it. It's gone. Again, that's the reality. It's gone. We're in another era now. It's over. Stars and Stripes forever? No. Stars and Stripes until 2021. It's over. The United States of America no longer exists. If you've got something so important that you were trying to save that, why are you wasting your time telling me about your sponsors? Sponsors also inherently have at least the potential to introduce bias or to restrict, you won't say this because it might offend your sponsor. No one who's trying to go out there and tell the real truth should be being sponsored, unless it's something completely benign and, you know, just, you know what I mean. Anyway, not to harp on it. Live streams full of super chats, like I was telling you before. Steve Turley is notorious for this. He'll do these videos. He says, I put out 2 videos a day. Of course, when everything started going wrong, when they started finally winning in this overthrow of Donald Trump, all of a sudden we weren't getting 2 videos a day anymore, were we? Because remember, Steve Turley's whole shtick is optimism. You know, we're going to win the battle. We're going to win the war. Total optimism. And it's like, there's nothing to be optimistic about. We just lost the United States of America, where our ancestors didn't lose it. This generation is a failure unlike any generation I can think of. Nobody has failed more miserably than the American people, not Nancy Pelosi. She succeeded. As lunatic as she is, as driven, as my opinion, driven by Satan as she is, which kind of tells you where her power comes from. The American people sat back, they drank beer, watched TV, sat there on their phone, computer. Now, when they're having these live streams, so he's doing these videos, but then all of a sudden he feels the need to do a live chat. And it's like, well, you're not even putting out the videos you said you're going to put out in the first place. Why are you doing a live chat when the live chat really is no different than your video, except for one thing? People are there donating money to you hand over fist. Duh. What's the difference between the two? That's it. Well, there is one other thing. In terms of cult building, getting a financial commitment from somebody, when you get a commitment from somebody, you're helping to kind of attach them to you. It's like you're putting out one little hook, just kind of snagging them. They can still break away, but then you get another donation from them. You got another hook. Because in their mind, they have made a commitment to you. And the more often they do that and repeat it, the more difficult it is for them to pull themselves away from you. And don't get me wrong, I wish people would donate to me and donate to me regularly, but they don't. But I don't care. That's not what I'm making these videos for. I would just like to have it. I think it's a nice thing to do for a homeless guy who's putting in this much effort. But if you don't want to, whatever. But if I'm going to try to coordinate and, everything to make it so that you will do that, and I'm going to try to manipulate you into a situation, instead of doing this video, I'm going to do a live chat. And right there on the side of the live chat is this thing about donating money. And you're going to be sitting there just thinking, should I donate? If I donate, I'm going to look pretty cool in front of all these other people. I'll just donate a little. I'll just donate $5. $5. And then the other people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, he donated and I didn't. I'd feel kind of... You see, it's just a bunch of manipulation. What's going on in the video is outside people's heads in many cases. Because you're manipulating people. You're manipulating what it is they're thinking about and focusing on. All of a sudden, they're worried about what they look like. Well, I can give more than $5. I'm going to give $10. And that's where you end up with these $20 and $50 and $100 donations for a video that's no different than the videos he just posted in the first place. All right, next. Ignoring blatant errors in the past as if they never happened. Excuse me. Still too cold in here. That's what the leftists do. That's what the corrupt news media does. They just hiding things. These people who keep saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and they just, predictions and such, and they just ignore it. It's like, ignore it and it'll go away. People, the masses have short memories. That's the kind of thing Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf. That's the kind of thing Joseph Goebbels wrote in his diaries. The people, the masses, the ignorant hordes have short memories. That's just exploiting it. If you blew it, tell people you blew it. Bring it up. Examine it. Figure out why you blew it so that maybe you won't in the future, and maybe the people listening to you can learn something about avoiding that error as well. I try not to make predictions in this channel. I do. I made some regarding what's going to happen if Joe Biden was inaugurated president. And hey, what do you know? They're already coming true. Even before he's inaugurated, Iran is already out there saber rattling. They're already threatening the United States of America because they know that as of tomorrow, this time tomorrow, right now, tomorrow, 24 hours from now, we are going to have the weakest president we have probably ever had. Owned and operated by China, so they're out there threatening us. North Korea already back to saber rattling like they did 4 years ago. 4 years of nothing under Trump. But now they're already doing it again. All the things I predicted are happening. But if I blow it, I don't have a problem bringing it up. It doesn't mean I'll necessarily try to draw attention to it, but I'm not going to just gloss over it. If I start talking about that topic again, I'm going to say, well, I said I thought this was going to happen and it didn't. Here's what I think the reason why. Again, you got to find a balance there, not to dwell on it, but don't sit there and portray yourself if you're always going to be giving predictions, which Turley does all the time. If you look back over Turley's videos back before the election, almost every prediction he made was wrong. Every time he said this is going to happen, it didn't happen. Right up to now, where with the second impeachment, what did he say? He said Trump must be convicted in this impeachment, right? And he says, quote, not going to happen, not in a million years. The last I saw, he was convicted. Hours after Turley put up this video by the House. Now, granted, you still got the Senate. He wasn't real clear on what he was talking about, which body he was talking about. But the Senate seems like they're poised to do the same thing. Remember, this isn't about the impeachment, and he should have known that. This is about, first of all, murdering Donald Trump. Iran that country that Joe Biden supports, the terrorist organization, they have a wanted dead or alive poster for Donald Trump. If he gets impeached by the Senate, he no longer has Secret Service protection, and he no longer has security briefing. He's a walking dead man. They're murdering the man. Plus, he can never run for president again. But Turley said, not going to happen, not in a million years, unquote. Huh. Didn't take a million years, took a couple hours there, doctor. Attacking anyone who criticizes them. You know, when it comes to critics, you first have to determine, are they a critic who has any credibility? I mean, does their criticism matter? You know, I mean, when I was on Twitter, occasionally, you know, I get into a flow. I'm doing some things, especially when I was exposing the coronavirus health scare, the fraud behind that. And there were a couple jackanapes here in Minnesota who took offense because they like sitting around smoking pot, not having to go to work, and getting free money from the government, which is free money from people who work for a living at a job. Like me. Since my taxes pay for their free stimulus checks that I don't get because I'm homeless. I don't get a stimulus check, you see, if you didn't know that. In case you didn't know that. So you get these critics through. I'm trying to think of an example. I just blow these off because these guys are idiots. Who cares? They're not credible. Oh geez, there was one. I had made some comment, and something about. I shouldn't even use the example. I'll get it wrong, but something about Bigfoot, you know, they had something wasn't going to happen, and I said it's more likely that Bigfoot's going to jump out of a UFO than that this is going to happen, or I don't know, I said something like that, but linguistically, grammatically, it was correct, it made the point. But then, either because this guy is too illiterate to understand sentence structure, or because he's doing the liberal thing of just lying, he twisted it around and somehow said something, geez, I don't even remember. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, the homeless consultant says that Bigfoot's gonna jump out of a UFO. I don't even remember. See, I don't even care. I don't care. But that's supposedly a critic. That's somebody who doesn't like what I'm saying while I'm exposing this coronavirus health scare. I mean, I care so little about this twit. I don't even remember what the criticism was. That isn't something I pay attention to, folks. Now, you get somebody out there who says, you know, Paul, when you talk about this topic, you do this, and, you know, I mean, constructive criticism, that's cool. I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I need to improve at all times. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But these people who go after people who criticize them, and again, I'm sorry, but Turley, especially if you criticize his false optimism, there is no reason to be optimistic right now, folks. If you can think of if you get away from Turley's, this cloud, this mist of optimism he's blowing in your face all the time, and look at the real world we live in, where we've got the Capitol building down there with basically a full military outside and gates. I mean, it literally looks like the inauguration of an Adolf Hitler. The only thing they have to do is line up in proper rows, and it will look just like that, 1938. There ain't a lot to be optimistic about right now, folks. But he will get furiously angry if you criticize him for that. But I'm going to criticize you for that, Steve Turley. You have no business trying to get people to be optimistic. They need to be realistic. I'm not trying to get them to be pessimistic, but they need to accept the reality of where they're at. Where they're at is their country is gone. And it's gone forever. It is impossible to get back this country because it's founded on we the people telling the government what to do. And if in a republic the elected officials we elect do not do it, we unelect them. But they now control the elections process. It is logically impossible for us to vote them out of office because they're corrupt. Therefore, logically, the fundamental core of what the United States of America was is obliterated. It's over. I hate saying it, but it's the truth. And Turley, you need to start telling people that, instead of leading them off on La La Land. 10, 20 years down the road, their family's going to be subject to the kind of thing, if not sooner, to the same kind of thing the Soviet Union was. And you got to prepare them for that, so that they'll survive. Come on, what is wrong with you? Pay attention to reality. I mean, the only reason you would have this optimism thing is if you were trying to build a cult. It's like, well, I'm going to be the last bastion of hope for these people. You know what? I'm sorry, but none of these people, including me, is your hope. My hope is that your hope is Jesus Christ, because He's God. He's not a human. He is someone you can put your hope in. But it ain't me. I'll do my best I can for you. I'll do it sincerely. But I can't promise you anything. I'm just a person. Just like Turley. But Turley gets $500, $200, $1,000 in a half hour for sitting in a chair, doing what I do sitting in this chair, where I get zero. Is he really doing more for you than what I'm doing by teaching you how to identify this kind of manipulation? Moving right along. Being loud, boisterous, and aggressive. Okay, and here I say it as I'm being kind of loud. I'm being unusually loud in this video. Every once in a while, if I get excited about something, that's one thing. Okay, great. But if it's your shtick to just be this steamroller, you know, like Alex Jones, okay, or from what I've seen of this Bongino guy, Dan Bongino, this guy, he just kind of has this, you know, just matter of fact. It's like, dude, don't kill me. I thought we were on the same side. By doing that, you're kind of doing it's almost like the bully thing. It's basically, I'm going to put up this steamroller front in the way that I present myself to you. It's not going to be like sometimes I'm very calm speaking to you, and then I raise my voice because I get passionate about something. But I'm just going to be this frontal assault, just with the way I speak to you, just aggressive and pushy and authoritative. That is a manipulative tactic. That's a way of basically telling all your listeners, stay back, folks. I'm the one who does the talking. You do the listening. Because I know what's going on, and you don't. Sorry, folks. I told you a moment ago, Bongino, when he talked about homelessness, he didn't have the slightest idea what he was talking about. I do. On that topic. If you want to talk about Secret Service work, he's the one to go to. That's his experience. Don't come to me. But he still does it with that steamroller, pushy, I'm in charge, I'm in control, I'm the man. Sorry, folks, that's a cult building tactic. Pretending to be a one-man show when you have staff and volunteers doing most of the work. Okay, what about even Zeducation? Even Zeducation, this supposed comedy channel. He has all these volunteers running his website or Discord server with all these memes and everything. That's a bunch of other people. Those are the people actually doing so much of the effort on there. I mean, I pictured Zed as going off to some job, you know, making a bunch of money, and then he comes back and spends maybe an hour or two, you know, getting a video together, and maybe even these volunteers provided him with the memes he's going to look at, instead of looking at all the hard work that people did creating these memes. Then he just comes up with his thing and he does his show. And everybody watching it is just like, oh, Tyler, I wish I could meet Tyler. Oh, he's my hero. It's like, what about all these other people back there? You've got all these people doing his Discord server, these volunteers, just serving as a buffer between him and the unwashed masses. That's cult building tactics, folks. Those people should be getting as much credit and appreciation from every viewer of that show as he does. But I don't see credits rolling at the end. It's all Tyler Zed. And these other people do the same thing. I mean, Bongino, he's going to have a huge staff with what he's got going on there. Turley, he's alluding to people all the time. Give him credit where it's due. that people who are helping him out with things, again, credit where it's due. It is. But the focus is on Steve Turley. He's the man. It's Turley Talks. It's not Turley and Company Talks, Turley and Crew. It's Turley Talks. Let's see. How about playing the doctor card? Obviously, these two guys in here do it. Dr. Steve Turley and Dr. Dave Janda. Now, I'm not here to insult someone who gets a PhD or has a doctorate. I want to give respect where it's actually due. But until I look into your education and I look into your dissertation, the fact that you have a doctorate and a PhD doesn't impress me in the slightest. You got to show me that it meant something, that you did a good job with it, that you weren't just jumping through the hoops of this cult called academia. Because if you did that, you don't deserve anybody's respect. There's people out there pushing evolution, for heaven's sake, something that's been mangled by the discovery of double helix DNA for 50 years, 70 years, really. I mean, for the longest time, there's people out there pushing that, getting PhDs. Am I supposed to show respect for them because they have doctor there? Don't put doctor in your freaking videos. What's wrong with you people? I mean, that's as impressive as Dr. Johnny Fever was on WKRP. I could call myself doctor. You know, all of you criticize me, well, you're not a doctor, you don't have a PhD. It's like, so? So what? Doctor's just a title. It's a title. It means absolutely nothing. What did you do to get that title? That's what matters. And I never hear these people really talking much about that, although Janda does talk more about it than Turley does. Anyway, the doctor card. I couldn't care less. Dr. Fauci, find me a greater failure than that. Doctor. Couldn't care less. Creating a familiar comfort zone by repeating the same format. Now, okay, I will grant you, if you're doing an episodic type show, it makes sense to have a format that you follow every time. Okay, people are not thrown off by something different like I tend to do. I started out the same, but who knows what's coming in my videos. But, you know, Liberal Hivemind is pretty straightforward in the way that it flows. Turley Talks is very rigid, or Turley's show is very rigid in the way that it progresses. You know, that boisterous opening, all optimistic, and then going into the first advertisement, then something that doesn't quite meet what the expectations based on the big hyperbolic title, and then another advertisement, and then another segment that doesn't quite meet the expectations from the clickbait title. Alright, whatever. Anyway, if you're creating a familiar zone, this is a great instance of where it's a fine line between marketing and cult building. In marketing, you need to do something like that. You know, if you have a television show, you have to kind of progress through a familiar format. But the thing is, it does make people very comfortable, and sometimes it sucks them in so that they want to feel like they're in a safe place, you know, like when they're a kid. And sometimes just going to listen to Steve Turley talk, I don't even want to hear what he says, but hearing that thing, hello everybody at the beginning, just hearing that makes you feel comfortable because you're in a safe place. One tiny little step away from cult building, folks. Be very, very careful when people are doing that. It's okay to do it, but be careful with it. It can be very manipulative if the person at the other end wants it to be, and how are you going to know if you can't read their mind? Again, that hyperbolic, over-the-top clickbait headlines with the capital letters and the exclamation points, absolutely inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. That's how you get people to your videos. If you have something to say, then describe what it is you have to say accurately in your title, and let people decide if they want to watch it, instead of manipulating them to come in, like I did on this video, just to show you how it's done. Just vague words, using vague words. I put out a video called Experts Warn. Probably has 7 views. You might want to watch that video to see how vague words manipulate people. Likewise, the hyperbolic words, you know, imploding, exploding, is finished, you know, just beginning, you know, these do they match the reality of what the person's actually describing in their content? In too many cases, it doesn't. Those are manipulative tactics, using that kind of language deliberately to get your emotions going. Not allowing comments or public criticism. You're going to shut off your comments, really? Seriously? Okay. Mesmerizing speech. Now, that one's tough. NPR is notorious for this. NPR mastered this soft, hypnotic monotone with no passion, no life at all, using a particular microphone and preamplifier that warms your voice in a way to make you sound a lot warmer than you are when you probably sound more like Jerry Lewis in real life. But, NPR has the right equipment to make you sound like you're just Mr. Smooth, and it's mesmerizing. And because people are getting lulled into maybe the ASMR aspect of your voice, especially if you are constantly using plosives in your T's. Your T's are very articulate as you speak softly. It's a manipulative tactic, folks. Look up ASMR sometime. Just look it up. Just type those 4 letters in there and see what you get, folks. That's what NPR did to manipulate people into listening to their nonsense. And too many of these guys do it too. Again, I'm sorry to point at Turley all the time, but he just does all this stuff. Listen to Turley. I mean, the guy sounds like he just poured a glass of water, or just got out of the shower, just poured a glass of water all over his mouth. Every word that has the letter P in it is this. Here, let me try it. I don't even know if I can do it. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. I mean, I can't even do it. It's the same thing that rappers do. You ever notice how rappers, when they're talking, their P's are always this big. If you watch a waveform of them speaking, whenever they have a P, there's this big spike. Their P's, and it's a manner of speech that's supposed to be cool. Listen to any of the broadcasts from the 1970s, 60s, 50s. Do you hear people talking like that? No. Why? Because it's a rude way to talk. Deliberately. Some people just naturally do that, but these wet, grotesque P's that make it sound like you're inside their mouth when they're talking, that's a way of manipulating people. You're trying to create something that is uniquely yours so that people will feel at home and feel familiar, and they'll come back to you. It's the same thing NPR did. It's just wrong. But then you get things like liberal Hivemind. I don't see anything like that. Obviously Giuliani, nothing of the kind. But it can be something else like Alex Jones, like his aggressive speech, or Bongino, his very authoritative, pushy, bulldozer, bully type speech. Just establishing some kind of speech pattern that becomes familiar and kind of uniquely yours. It's a way of attaching people to you. It's that little Velcro thing again. One hook here, one hook the next time they listen, another hook, and it becomes harder and harder to pull away, even if you're not doing anything for them. Predictions that almost never come true. I already talked about that. I was talking about appeals to experts and credentials, academics, authors, pretentious sources of dubious competence and relevance. If all you're going to do is appeal to, well, this academic said this, and so, the author of this book said that, and there's this academic theory that says such and such, once in a while it's okay to bring those things in, but if that's your whole thing for trying to define where you're going, sorry folks, the world there's just a glut of this nonsense. Academia is a cult. The publishing industry is a complete waste of time. It's one of my existential threats to America. It's doing the same thing the internet is doing. Just because somebody has a forum to speak does not mean that they have anything to say. And this appeal to experts and credentials is just utter nonsense. It's not to say they don't have something good to say. They could be utterly competent. They could be experts. But if you're just constantly relying on that, it's got to stop. Refusing to put their money where their mouth is, putting themselves at real risk. Every night, if I'm not in the hotel, at least 5 nights a week, I'm sleeping in this car. You talk about putting yourself at risk. I make these videos that tick off some really bad, rotten, evil people in Minnesota. I could wake up dead any time. I don't see these guys putting their money where their mouth is. They are putting themselves at some risk to the extent of cancel culture and things like that. I'll give them credit. And in fact, I'll give them a lot of credit. They really are. It's gotten worse and worse and worse to the point where now the fact that they're still doing it does show some moral courage that might not have been there before. But again, you got to kind of weigh that and watch it. Are they putting their money where their mouth is, or are they just trying to make money? Asserting rather than teaching. Is the only thing they're doing just telling you the way it is? This is how it is, folks. Or do they ever go in to explain what is really going on? You know, teaching you how to fish instead of handing you a fish. Now, here's a case where Turley actually can do a very good job sometimes. He will take things that he says and he will explain the theory behind it. And it might go into academics and experts and authors. And that's okay. Again, it's not all or nothing. But when they get into that thing about just, you know, it's just off the top of my head, you're just listening to someone's opinion at that point. And we just don't have time for that anymore. You've got to listen to people who at least know what they're talking about if they're going to assert things, and hopefully they're going to explain the reasons for it. You know, my 50 existential threats to America is a lot of what I've been talking about in all my previous videos to some extent or other. And then I started taking each one of those existential threats in more depth. Now I got thwarted by the coronavirus health scare that shut everything down, but I mean, I was trying to put my money where my mouth is. Not just putting my neck on the line by being willing to post these online and then go sleep in this car with these kinds of lunatics in Minnesota out there surrounding me like these guys, these stalkers who were in this car. I couldn't get a good look at them. I could just see the faces stopping their car and turning and looking at me. Then they pull on this side and they stop their car again and they all turn and look at me. And they can hardly see. I mean, the car's got snow on it. I mean, yeah, I'm putting my neck on the line, believe me. Because what if those are people who know somebody in these videos like a Governor Tim Walz, for example? These people are dangerous. They are not stable. You can tell by their behavior, by what he's done. He helped to destroy the greatest nation the world has ever known. This is not somebody I want to have his buddies pulling up their car and staring at me like I'm a piece of candy. Are they doing this? Are these other guys doing this? I don't know. To me, Giuliani's really sticking his neck on the line. Absolutely. And not recommending other sources, or only recommending their associate sources. So I remember Zeducation, he had somebody who was doing something similar, and he recommended that you go watch him. But you know what? Zeducation never recommended to his mass following that they watch me, despite the very good work I'm doing. Or anyone else for that matter. If you're just trying to keep it in the family there, then you're running a business. You're not trying to help people. And one reason I'm doing this video isn't just to criticize all these people, it's to help you to watch them carefully and be cautious that you're not manipulated. But I want you to listen to every one of them, because they have good things to say and they are very helpful through what we're going through right now. I'm sharing these people who will never share me. They're not going to tell you that I even exist. They would leave me out in this car to die if they knew about me at all, before they would tell you, hey, you know what, this guy's actually really worth listening to. Here's his channel. But I'll tell you to listen to them, because I honestly think they do have something to contribute. All of them, including the ones I've talked about more than others. I'm not trying to put them down. I'm just trying to point out the reality. Alright, and with that, the last thing I would really say is that in terms of other people to listen to, the most legit ones are frankly former liberals who have come out of this insanity. They've grown up, they've matured, they've figured out that something's dreadfully wrong, and they've done the intellectual work that's necessary to move to a position of sanity and, you know, intellectual strength. The fact is, when I was growing up, I leaned very, very liberal. I had to outgrow it. It took many, many, many years. So I know where these people are coming from. Another one I'd recommend you look at, not for everything again, but look at what she's saying. Her name is Keri Smith, Keri. Look up a video called Former Social Justice Warrior Explains What Social Justice Ideology Is. Alright, I'll put the name up here. Search that on YouTube and listen to it. And notice how she uses the word cult when she's talking about these leftists and social justice warrior. Hey, I'm not the only one, am I? She was in it. She deprogrammed from it. She's someone you can listen to because she was there. Just like I used to be leaning way too far in those directions when I was a child. Rudy Giuliani. Listen to Rudy Giuliani and his Common Sense show because he's giving out really good information of the truth of what's been going on lately. I think liberal Hivemind is a very good one as well for that reason because he's a former liberal and he got himself out of it. Good job, man. Good job. Godspeed to you, trying to help others do the same. Someone I haven't mentioned here and I won't talk about in depth, Candace Owens, another one who escaped that mental illness and found sanity. Well worth listening to for that reason. And lastly, I would recommend, with a big grain of salt, Sky News Australia. Sky News Australia is definitely a right-leaning, it is biased, it leans to the right, but there's a lot of good stuff there that you're just not going to get anywhere else. So that's an actual news agency, Sky News Australia. Not the Sky News in Britain, which is the total opposite. Alright, and that's all I have for you here, folks. I hope this helps make you think about who you're listening to and maybe why you're listening to them. Are they really telling you something that's helping you and benefiting you? Or have they pulled a few strings that make you want to listen to them? Only you can decide. But I wanted to present this information to you because we are in a dire situation. We cannot afford to let a couple people exploit this situation by building a cult. It's got to stop. We need real information, real patriots, although you can't be a patriot to a country that no longer exists, can you? We need real people who really care about you, not just themselves. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something useful out of this, and if you like what I'm doing here, please watch my other videos. Thanks so much.